Batman has a plan to take down every single member of the Justice League, not villains, his own teammates. Today I'm breaking down and ranking every single one of those contingency plans, starting with the one fans can't stop arguing about: Green Arrow. Here's the thing about Batman's plan for Oliver Queen: it doesn't involve fighting him at all. Batman's contingency bypasses Green Arrow's combat skills entirely by remotely hacking his arrows through a wireless signal. Every trick arrow, every explosive tip, every gadget in his quiver becomes dead weight before Oliver even knows there's a problem. It works because Oliver built his entire identity around those tech upgrades. Strip them away, and you don't just disarm him, you destabilize him psychologically. Fans are genuinely split on this one. Some call it brilliant efficiency, others call it the laziest contingency in the entire roster. That debate is going to follow us through every plan on this list. But if you think hacking some arrows sounds underwhelming, wait until you hear what Batman designed for someone whose power literally comes from their voice. Black Canary. Green Arrow loses his toys. That's rough, sure, but Black Canary loses her own body. Batman's contingency for Dinah doesn't involve disabling equipment or removing weapons. He developed a nanite-based muscular toxin designed to progressively paralyze her. Once it's in her system, her muscles lock down one group at a time. She can't fight, can't move, and most importantly, she can't use the canary cry. You take away her muscle control, you take away her ability to even draw the breath needed to scream. Here's the thing: this isn't some elaborate sci-fi gadget, it's brutally simple. A toxin that shuts her body down from the inside out. No flashy counter technology, no sonic overrides, just chemistry doing what chemistry does best, breaking things quietly. And nobody talks about this one. Fans obsess over the Superman and Flash plans, but Black Canary's contingency is arguably more disturbing than both. He's not exploiting a weakness. He's poisoning a teammate with a compound designed to trap her inside her own body. That's not strategy. That's cruelty wearing a cape, which raises a question that's going to follow us through every single entry on this list. How far is too far? Because if you think weaponizing someone's biology is uncomfortable, wait until you see what Batman had planned for someone who can shrink to the size of an atom. Cyborg Green Arrow lost his arrows. Black Canary lost her voice. Cyborg loses his entire body. Batman embedded a backdoor override directly into Cyborg's operating systems, disguised as a routine diagnostic. Vic Stone has zero idea it exists. The exploit doesn't destroy anything. It simply freezes every cybernetic system, leaving Cyborg fully conscious, fully aware, but completely unable to move, speak, or escape. Here's where it gets dark. Roughly 80% of Cyborg's body is technological. So when Batman forces a full system reboot, Vic's AI assistants go offline, his motor functions lock, and he's left alone inside a paralyzed shell, awake, thinking, trapped. This is the first contingency on the list that crosses from tactical into something that feels genuinely monstrous. Fans consistently call it the most unethical plan Batman ever designed, and honestly, it's hard to argue. You're not disarming someone, you're burying them alive inside their own skin. But if you think trapping someone inside their own body is cruel, wait until you see what Batman had planned for the heavy hitters. Hawkman. Carter Hall is one of the most dangerous hand-to-hand fighters in the entire Justice League. Nth metal wings, nth metal weapons, thousands of years of combat experience across multiple lifetimes. In a fair fight, Batman loses every single time. So Batman made sure there would never be a fair fight. Here's the thing about Hawkman. He's aggressive, he fights forward, always. Batman cataloged his combat patterns and realized Carter is one of the most predictable fighters on the roster. Not because he's stupid, but because he's confident. He knows he's stronger, faster, and better armed than almost anyone he faces, so he charges. Batman uses that against him. The contingency involves establishing an electromagnetic field along Hawkman's known patrol routes that scrambles nth metal itself. His wings stop responding, his weapons go dead mid-flight at altitude. His greatest asset becomes dead weight in seconds. But here's the kicker. This isn't something Batman can pull out of his belt during a fight. He has to study Carter's patrol routes weeks in advance, pre-position the field, and wait. This is homework. This is a man spending his Tuesday nights tracking flight patterns so that if the day ever comes, one of the most physically dominant heroes alive flies directly into a trap he never saw coming. And honestly, that's peak Batman. He doesn't need to punch harder, he just needs to be ready first. But if you think a grounded Hawkman sounds rough, wait until you hear what Batman has planned for someone who can rewrite reality reality with a single word: Aquaman. People love to joke about Aquaman, but Batman doesn't joke about Aquaman because he actually did the math. Arthur Curry can lift battleships, survive crushing deep sea pressure, and telepathically command every living thing in the ocean. He is not a joke. So how do you stop him? You don't fight him. You make him afraid of the one thing keeping him alive. Batman's Contingency uses a re-engineered version of Scarecrow's fear toxin, specifically targeting Aquaman's Atlantean physiology. The result is a chemically induced aquaphobia so severe that Arthur physically cannot touch water, not ocean water, not drinking water, any water. Here's the thing: Aquaman can breathe air just fine, but his Atlantean body degrades without water contact. Batman knew the exact biological dependency and weaponized it. Cut Arthur off from water long enough, and his body starts shutting down on its own. That's not a fight, that's a countdown. But the entire plan hinges on dosing Arthur before he reaches open water. In the ocean, Batman has zero advantage, which means this contingency is less a guarantee and more a gamble. Still, the psychological cruelty is what makes it disturbing. Batman turned Aquaman's greatest strength into his greatest terror and let biology handle the rest. But if you think psychologically torturing a king is dark, wait until you see what Batman designed for someone who can outrun time itself: Zatanna. This one hits different, and not because of the plan itself. Batman's contingency for Zatanna targets her verbal incantation system. Every spell she casts requires precise backward pronunciation. Disrupt her speech and she's powerless. Simple enough on paper, but here's where it gets uncomfortable. Batman didn't figure this out by studying Zatanna from across a room. He learned it through years of direct collaboration, training together, fighting together, trusting each other. He sat beside her, watched her cast, understood exactly how her magic worked, and then quietly filed away the exact method to shut it all down. The plan itself combines targeted sound jamming technology with psychological pressure designed to create enough stress that perfect magical articulation becomes neurologically impossible. You can't speak backward flawlessly when your brain is flooded with panic. Batman knows that because he knows her. Fans still debate whether jamming sound actually neutralizes real magic or just blocks the speech component. It's a fair question with no clean answer, but if exploiting a friend's trust feels dark, wait until you see what Batman planned for someone who can rewrite matter itself: Firestorm. Firestorm is a walking nuclear reactor. He can transmute matter at the atomic level, generate blasts hot enough to melt steel and fly. So naturally, Batman's plan involves zero engagement with any of those powers. Here's the thing: Firestorm isn't one person. He's two consciousnesses merged into a single body, and that fusion only works when both minds are stable and cooperating. Batman's contingency targets that psychological bond directly, using personal intelligence on each host to induce panic, fracture their coherence, and effectively turn them into weapons against each other from the inside. It's therapy gone horribly, brutally wrong. And Batman didn't stop at one version. He refined this contingency across multiple encounters and different host configurations. Ronnie Raymond and Jason Rush have completely different psychological pressure points, different fears, different breaking points. Batman cataloged all of them. The plan is calibrated to whoever is currently fused. Now, it's worth noting that Firestorm's mechanics shift across timelines, so the exact details of how this plays out vary, but the core strategy stays consistent. Ignore the nuclear powers, attack the mind. It's darkly elegant. But if psychological warfare sounds disturbing now, wait until you hear what Batman designed for someone whose entire power source is willpower: Green Lantern. Here's the thing about Green Lantern's ring: it's theoretically the most powerful weapon in the entire DC universe. It can create anything the wielder imagines, operate at faster than light speeds, and output energy levels that rival cosmic beings. There is no hard ceiling on what it can do. So how does Batman plan to beat it? He doesn't. He plans to beat Hal Jordan. The ring runs on willpower. That's not a metaphor. It's literally the fuel source. If Hal's belief in his own ability to win collapses, the ring's output collapses with it. Batman's contingency engineers a scenario specifically designed to make Hal feel helpless, targeting his documented greatest fear: inevitable failure. The goal is to create a situation so psychologically overwhelming that Hal's confidence cracks before he can construct a single meaningful defense. And as a backup, Batman kept a physical failsafe exploiting the yellow impurity vulnerability, giving him a secondary option if the psychological route didn't land fast enough. Now, fans argue constantly about whether this plan actually works. Hal Jordan has overcome fear and doubt dozens of times across his character history. His entire arc is about willpower under impossible pressure, which means Batman's plan has a real Achilles heel, because the longer Hal fights, the more likely his willpower surges instead of breaks. But if you think attacking someone's mind is dark, wait until you see what Batman had planned for the fastest man alive, Plastic Man. And Plastic Man is a joke. That's the whole point. Eel O'Brien cracks wise, stretches into ridiculous shapes, and nobody in the Justice League takes him seriously as a threat. Batman does. And that's exactly what makes this contingency so unsettling. Here's the thing about Plastic Man that most people forget. He's functionally invulnerable. You can't burn him, crush him, tear him apart, or blow him up. His body reforms from virtually anything. He's one of the most powerful members of the League on paper, and almost nobody treats him that way. But Batman figured out the one thing Plastic Man's body can't adapt to: extreme cold. His contingency is built entirely around flash freezing Plastic Man to a temperature so low that his molecular structure locks in place. No elasticity, no reforming, no escape. Once he's frozen solid, you shatter him. Every single piece separated so far apart that reassembly becomes virtually impossible. Think about that for a second. You have to freeze a man who can become literally anything, then break him into so many fragments that he can't pull himself back together. If you don't freeze him fast enough, he adapts. If you don't scatter the pieces far enough, he reforms. The execution has to be flawless. That's the terrifying contrast here. The funniest member of the Justice League requires one of the most brutal takedowns Batman has ever designed. No half measures, no backup approach. Just absolute zero against a man nobody bothered to study because he was too busy making balloon animals. But if you think that sounds extreme, wait until you see what Batman has to do to stop someone whose power is literally limitless. The Atom. This one is pure Batman at his most surgical. Ray Palmer is one of the smartest scientists on the planet, a guy who literally rewrote the rules of physics to shrink himself down to subatomic levels. And Batman beat him with a physics lesson. Here's how it works. Ray Palmer's size manipulation runs on a specific subatomic frequency. Every time he shrinks or grows, his body is riding that frequency like a signal. Batman's contingency jams that frequency mid-transition. That's it. No punches, no traps, no elaborate setup. Just one disrupted signal, and Ray Palmer's own technology tears him apart from the inside. The cellular damage is automatic. Lock the Atom at his smallest size, and he's so fragile that a stiff breeze could injure him. Lock him at his largest, and he becomes slow, clumsy, and an easy physical target. Either direction is a loss. Batman doesn't even need to be in the same room. Here's what makes this one genuinely clever. Batman demonstrates a deeper understanding of Ray's own technology than most physicists would have. Fans pick up on this constantly, and they're right. There's a weird respect baked into this contingency. Batman studied Ray Palmer's work so thoroughly that he found the one flaw Ray himself probably never considered. It's the scientific equivalent of a chess grandmaster spotting a weakness in another grandmaster's favorite opening. No contact, no confrontation, just physics working against you. But if you think a frequency jam is cold, wait until you see what Batman designed for one of the League's most powerful flyers. Wonder Woman. Here's where Batman stops pretending he can win a fair fight, because he can't. He knows he can't. Diana Prince is one of the three most dangerous members of the Justice League, and Batman documents her exactly that way. No ego, no delusion, just cold acknowledgement that this woman could end him in seconds. So how do you beat someone you literally cannot outfight? You make her beat herself. Batman's contingency doesn't target Diana's strength, speed, or combat skill. It targets her honor. Her Amazonian training makes her one of the most elite warriors on the planet, but that same discipline makes her responses patterned and exploitable. She follows rules of fair combat. She will not yield. She will never stop fighting as long as an opponent stands in front of her. Batman weaponizes that exact instinct. The plan uses a nanite virus that traps Diana in an endless virtual combat loop against an opponent she can never defeat. Her own refusal to surrender becomes the prison. Her warrior code creates the cage, and the longer she fights, the deeper she's trapped. Now, some fans call this sexist. Batman only uses psychological tactics on women, but that's a surface read. Batman uses whatever works. Against Superman, it's kryptonite. Against Flash, it's a vibra bullet that exploits his molecular vibration. Against Diana, it's her code, because her code is genuinely her most predictable variable. He doesn't need to overpower her. He just needs her to keep doing what she always does: fight without stopping. This isn't dismissive, it's terrifying. He's essentially programming her heroism against her. But if psychological warfare sounds dark, wait until you see what Batman designed for the most powerful mind in the Justice League. Flash. How do you stop someone who can outrun light itself? You don't. You don't even try. And that's exactly what makes Batman's contingency for the Flash so brilliant. Every other plan in Batman's arsenal involves some form of confrontation. A device, a trap, a psychological angle. But with the Flash, none of that works. You can't trap someone who moves faster than your neurons fire. You can't ambush someone who perceives time in fractions of a nanosecond. Traditional strategy is completely useless. So Batman threw the entire playbook out. Instead of trying to catch the fastest person alive, he designed a vibra bullet specifically calibrated to hit the Flash in the spine. And the Flash's speed comes from the Speed Force, an extra-dimensional energy field that no conventional weapon can counter. But the Speed Force still channels through a human body, a human nervous system, and that's the weak point Batman exploited. The vibra bullet doesn't try to match the Flash's velocity. It induces light-speed seizures that hijack his entire neural network. His body locks up from the inside out, and the seizures cycle so fast that even a speedster connected to the Speed Force can't outpace his own nervous system, betraying him. The result is continuous, debilitating incapacitation. The Flash doesn't slow down gracefully. He loses all control, every nerve firing at once, over and over, faster than he can process what's happening to him. Think about how terrifying that is. 1 second, you're the fastest thing in existence. The next, your own body becomes a prison moving at light speed. You can feel every single seizure, and there's nothing you can do. Fans consistently rank this as one of Batman's most creative contingencies, and honestly, it's hard to argue. He reframed the entire problem. You can't outrun your own spine, but if you think turning the Flash's speed against him sounds disturbing, wait until you hear what Batman planned for the most powerful being on the planet, Martian Manhunter. This is the one that crosses the line. John Johns is the most powerful telepath on the planet. His mental abilities are so vast that physical containment is completely pointless. You can't cage him. You can't restrain him. His mind operates on a level that makes every other Justice League member look like they're running on dial-up. So Batman did the only thing that could work. He targeted John's mind directly. The contingency uses forced psychological exposure to John's deepest trauma, the extinction of his entire species, the loss of everything he ever loved, his complete isolation as the last Martian alive. Batman studied all of it, cataloged it, and turned it into a weapon. But here's where it gets truly dark. The plan compounds the psychological attack with fire exposure. Fire isn't just a physical weakness for Martians. It triggers a species-level trauma response hardwired into their nervous system. Batman weaponizes that chain reaction, using the fire to crack open John's defenses and then flooding his mind with everything that haunts him. The result? John is fully conscious, completely uninjured, trapped inside a psychological cage built from his own grief. Batman isn't trying to stop his body. He's trying to shatter his mind. That's what makes this the most ethically contested contingency in the entire set. Some fans call it the only realistic option against someone whose mental powers make every other approach useless. Others call it what it looks like, psychological torture. Batman didn't just prepare to fight John. He prepared to break him using the worst moments of his existence as ammunition. But if psychological warfare disturbs you, wait until you see what Batman built for the most powerful being in the Justice League, Superman. This is the one. The plan every fan argues about, every comic reader has an opinion on, and the one Batman poured more resources into than every other contingency combined. And honestly, it's also the most terrifying because it reveals exactly how Batman thinks about his best friend. Here's the thing about fighting Superman. You can't partially neutralize him. A weakened Superman is still stronger than almost every being on the planet. Batman knows this, which is why his contingency isn't a single weapon or a clever trick. It's a multi-stage system designed to strip Clark Kent down to nothing, one layer at a time. Stage 1 is red sun radiation, sustained exposure, not a quick flash. We're talking 2 to 3 minutes of continuous bombardment to meaningfully deplete Kryptonian cells. That means Batman needs to stall Superman, control the environment, and force him into an enclosed space, all simultaneously, against someone who can move faster than thought. The logistics alone are insane. Stage 2 is kryptonite. Once the invulnerability starts cracking, the kryptonite finishes the job on his body. But stage 3 is the real nightmare, psychological warfare. Batman targets Clark's human relationships, his attachment to innocent lives, his absolute refusal to let anyone suffer if he can prevent it. Superman will always choose saving others over saving himself. Always. And Batman weaponizes that. He doesn't exploit a weakness. He weaponizes a value. Clark's compassion becomes the cage that holds him still long enough for the radiation and kryptonite to do their work. It's the most complex contingency on this list because it has to be. Anything less, and Superman walks through it. This is where fans start asking the real question. Is the guy building doomsday weapons against his own allies actually more dangerous than the villains he claims to fight? It's a fair question, but if you think Superman's contingency raises ethical problems, wait until you hear who Batman's final contingency targets. Batman. Every plan on this list has one thing in common. Batman built them to neutralize someone else, someone stronger, faster, more powerful. He studied their weaknesses, mapped their blind spots, and created systems to shut them down if they ever crossed the line. But here's the thing. Batman always knew the most dangerous person in that room was him. The failsafe protocol is Batman's contingency against himself. Not a suggestion, not a note in a file. A fully autonomous AI system built with stolen Justice League technology, a complete assassination framework, and a perfect model of Batman's own mind. Every tactic he's ever used, every contingency he's ever designed, every thought pattern, every instinct, every fallback. The failsafe knows all of it because Batman built it to know all of it. And once it activates, there is no kill switch Batman can trigger. That's the point. He designed it so he couldn't talk his way out, think his way out, or plan his way out. The system operates without emotional attachment. It adapts in real time. It counters every known method Batman has ever deployed against anyone because it was specifically engineered to fight the one person who created every method on this list. That's the implication the failsafe arc forces into the open. Batman didn't build this last. He built it first. In his mind, he was always the biggest threat. Not Superman, not Martian Manhunter, not the Flash. Him, the man with no powers who made himself dangerous enough to neutralize gods, also quietly built the one system designed to end himself. Because he understood what he was before anyone else did. And that's not heroic. That's terrifying. Batman's greatest fear was never the Justice League going rogue. It was the version of himself that couldn't be stopped. So he made sure something could stop it. He just hoped nobody would ever have to find out. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.